Well, good afternoon. Still a little light out. I haven't done that in a minute because you can maybe hear a little bit of the fucking early morning phlegm in my voice. Can you hear the phlegm in my voice when it's gone down? I apologize. Not really, though. Welcome back to the Jacob Wayne Show. This is number 84, I do believe. Today, we're going to have a nice, thick music section with our boy, Kelin Gibbons. He's joining us again after a long break. So that'll be good. What am I sipping on? Hopefully to clear out the pipes. A little bit of coffee. A breakfast blend from some company I can't remember. Nice and cheap, on sale, but good stuff. Just happened to catch it on that sale. So, without further ado, let's hop into this thing. And of course I don't have it pulled up or anything ready. I just press record because I get ahead of myself. Once again, if you have any feedback on the new slight structure changes, maybe just disagreements with how I do things, write me at thejacobwayneshow@gmail.com, and we'll see if I agree, or I'm going to criticize you on the next episode. Let's go to our Jacob Wayne Show page and see if there's anything to discuss. Ooh. This one's for next week. Well, no. I haven't. Okay. Let's get into it. NPR. Good old trusty National Public Radio. A nearly 6-pound toadzilla found in Australia breaks the record for largest toad. How about that? Park rangers in northern Australia found a cane toad so giant that it provoked gasps and disbelief. It is a pretty big fucking toad. Let's see here. See if there's a way I can show ya. Alright. Oh. Modern science. Yes. Thank you for sticking with me as I figure this out on the fly. Fly toad, it's like what they eat. Alrighty. And then if you're watching on YouTube, there's me a bunch of times repeated, but there's your toad. Can you see it? Good Lord. But, if you want to get a better shot, look it up on NPR. So with that, the toad, which the Rangers nicknamed Toadzilla, weighed in at what's believed to be a record-breaking 5.95 pounds, compared to an average weight of 1 pound. So this is like 6 times the size of an average toad. I've been there. Park Ranger Kylie Gray spotted the monster toad while conducting track work in Conway National Park and couldn't believe how big and heavy it was, she said in the news release. I bet she did. The Rangers believe it is a female toad, and while they don't know how old it is, this one has been around a long time, Gray said. Cane toads can live up to 15 years in the wild. The Rangers quickly put the toad in a container to remove it from the wild and euthanize it. Cane toads were... sometimes in my old age, I forget what words mean. Or at least I think I know what they mean. And then realize I couldn't tell you exactly what the, like the definition is. So euthanize. Yeah, that's what I thought. They put this fucking toad to death? Let's reread this. The Rangers quickly put the toad in a container to remove it from the wild and euthanize it. Fucking A. They're gonna, even the biggest fucking toad, the biggest star in the toad world, they're gonna fucking euthanize it. Cane toads were introduced in Queensland in 1935 to control the cane beetle population, but became a damaging pest in their own right, colonizing habitats and poisoning other wildlife. A cane toad that size will eat anything it can fit into its mouth, and that includes insects, reptiles, and small mammals. And children. No, like, holy shit. Let's take a break right now. What are they doing down there? Down under. I always hear about the wild, crazy fucking animals that live down there just naturally. They've evolved over thousands of years, tens of thousands of years to be like deadly, wild, crazy creatures. It's not a very hospitable spot. And then it gets colonized by Europe, UK, I think, mostly, if I know my Australian history at all. But, like, then they introduce all these other life forms that, like, aren't adapted to that ecosystem, and they just tear it up. And they just keep throwing other animals at it, like, oh, there's this fucking cane beetle problem, so let's just throw a bunch of fucking toads at them. Fucking wild. I love Australia, but Jesus Christ. Alright. Cane toads are native to South and Central America and have no natural predators in Australia. There may be more than 20 million cane toads on the continent, an astonishing increase from the 100 that were introduced less than a century ago. Because their bodies are toxic to other species, they've caused local extinctions of some would-be predators. The toad's body will be donated to the Queensland Museum, which expressed interest because she may be the largest on record. The previous largest known toad in Princeton, a Guinness World Record holding pet cane toad. Blah, blah, blah. The previous largest known toad is Princeton. Oh, I thought in Princeton. A Guinness World Record holding pet cane toad who clocked in at 5 pounds and 13 ounces in 1991. So you're no longer the goat toad. I still think that's fucked up. He's big enough. Like, let him live. Let him be a freak toad for another year or so. At a zoo, so he's not just swinging that big toad dick around, shaming all the other toads. Rest in peace, Toadzilla. Give my best to Harambe, Let's move on. Not quite time for movie discussions, at least I don't think. Oh, one real quick thing. If you haven't checked in with the Boston Dynamics lab that, does all the robots, like the robot dog, check out the most recent one. This was posted by Unilad Tech. It's unreal what the Boston Dynamics Atlas robot can do now, which I would agree. There's this video they posted of it just kind of running through this little obstacle course. Jumps up, then it tosses a tool bag up to this worker, shoves a box off the edge, and then he does like this twist double spiral off of that box. Like, these robots are better gymnasts than most people now. So, all I would say is that those of you freaking out about AI art right now, which, believe me, I understand, I'm a painter. I'd be more worried about one of these robots doing a triple double helix into your grandmother's living room and stabbing her. That's what we need to be making sure that the robots don't do. Keep painting pretty pictures. See, these robots are they're a little bit like Hitler. If we had just given Hitler a art career, maybe he wouldn't have done the things he did. Keep the robots painting. That's what I say. Movie time? I think so. Yep. Everything else is music. We are going to cover that with Kelin later in this episode. Although, one thing that we maybe missed during that segment recording was a quick little shout out to the Fretliners. My buddy Tom. That's his bluegrass band. They've been doing well lately, so just a little shout out to them. Check out the Fretliners, especially if you're in the Colorado area. But they're zipping around. They're a lot more well-to-do than the old Gamma Pa. They can hit you up in a different state at the moment. And with that, let's get into movie time. So, got these movies listed. These are all the movies I watched over the course of last week. The first movie I watched last week was Miller's Crossing. This is the third Coen Brothers film. It is really great, wonderful. As with most Coen Brother films for me, it drags just a bit because it doesn't have a conventional plot. Things don't unravel the way that you're used to. So you're kind of a little bit on edge, but in a lot of ways, so much of it is just really casual dialogue. And with this one in particular, the language they use, this 1920s, 30s, like, yeah, what's the juice, kid? Like, no, they say, yeah, what's the rumpus, Marcus? Like, you have to, like, almost, like, sit and translate it while you're listening to it, just to, like, no, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what they mean. So, this movie is a little bit like eating your vegetables. It can be delicious, but, you know, it's not like a snack cake. It's not going to go down easy. Except for when it bursts into these, like, crazy moments of violence, which are orchestral and wonderful, and really, like, create a contrast with the rest of the film, in my opinion. Excuse me. I mean, it's cinematography is amazing, the acting's amazing, it's funny, it's kind of serious. It's definitely like a Coen brother type gangster film. They put their own little touch on it. Let's see what the reviews were for it on Letterboxd. Seems like it's a lot of 4 stars, 5 stars, 4.5. So most people are in agreement. All I would say, I think I've done a Coen Brothers film ranking on this show before. This is one of the ones I never saw. And it's hard to place it so far. Another thing about Coen Brothers films is I have to see them a couple times before they fully, like, sink in for me. Which I think is a good thing. It's like any good piece of art, kind of takes a little bit to, like, wrap your head around it. But let's see. They had Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing. We're going to be watching Barton Fink next, which is another one I haven't seen. Yeah, I think I like Blood Simple and Raising Arizona a little more than Miller's Crossing. But that really isn't saying too much. Like, I pretty much, at this point, love just about anything the Coen brothers put out. And it's almost a matter of what you're in the mood for at any given moment. So we'll move right along, because if you got any criticisms, write them to me, because it's a hard one to find on that particular film. Then the next film we watched was Blast from the Past. Now, seems like the actor that everybody's falling back in love with, giving them a renaissance. You know, they had the reconnaissance? Yeah, with Matthew McConaughey not too long ago. I feel like there was one in between that, but lately they've had the Brendan Fraser. Man, somebody corrected me on how to say his last name recently, and it kind of fucked me up. Fraser. And I don't even know if that's accurate. Just somebody shamed somebody else on a podcast I listened to. For your consideration. That's a good one on Perry Nemiroff's channel. If you think I'm a little too cantankerous but still like movie news, I would go check out her channel because it's very nice. It's a good time. She's a sweetheart and has great people working with her. But back to Blast from the Past. There's Brendan Fraser. Fraser-nessence? Yeah. He is probably going to be nominated for an Oscar for his role in The Whale, which came out this year and might win. I think he won the Golden Globe for it, but I'm not 100% on that. But so we decided to go through some of his older movies. So we watched Blast from the Past, a 1999 romantic comedy film starring him and Alicia Silverstone. Remember her? She could use a renaissance. Maybe last time I heard she was all anti-vax and all this other stuff, which, like, ugh. Miss me with that, Silverstone. Back to the movie, though. I had never seen this before. I'd seen, like, bits and pieces. I knew what it was. Neil and Dan loved this movie and had seen it a lot when they were younger. And so, let's see. The film focuses on a naive 35-year-old man, so 1 year younger than me by now, who has spent his entire life, 1962 to 1997, living in a Cold War era fallout shelter built by his survivalist anti-communist father, who believes the United States has suffered a Soviet nuclear attack. Adam emerges into the modern world where his innocence and old-fashioned views put him at comedic odds with others. The film received mixed reviews from critics and was a box office disappointment. It is cheesy, and it hasn't aged perfectly. They have tropes that are kind of like, ugh, like the gay best friend who's just real sassy. It has like a lot of nostalgia for the old way when things used to be good and talking a lot of shit on the 90s, which I think that there's a fun way to do that, and then there's a way where you're like, yeah, I think you're pining for the past a little bit too much in this film. And I noticed that, like, with the 80s, there was a lot of, like, pining for the 50s. In the 90s, it sort of became the 60s. So it's like, yeah, it seems like almost always, like, about 20 or so years back, whatever the media is, they're, like, pining for that era. So you saw it with Stranger Things and, like, a bunch of 80s nostalgia. And now in this decade, it seems like they're trying to creep into, like, 90s nostalgia. So yeah, I guess more like 20 to 30 years. Not 20. Okay. I don't know. It's a straightforward movie. Like, there's not a lot of nuance to it. It thrives on the charm and abilities of Brendan Fraser. And he does a good job. And the other people in the film do a decent job being, like, comedic. The thing that really was good was Christopher Walken and Sissy Spacek as his parents at the beginning of the film, and then them going down into the fallout shelter and their time together, raising him as a boy. Like, that was actually really good. That was perhaps my favorite stuff, is with those two, so it spends quite a bit of time with them before it shifts over to Brendan Fraser, and then it almost becomes a different type of movie. But in general, like not tonally, the tone's the same, but just different story thread. And then it does end kind of weird, like in an interesting sort of way. Like it generally ends happy, but just on this like weird, reflective, like when the parents get older, then we have to take care of them. It almost like reminded me of like films I've seen come out of China or Korea. Like they get into these weird, almost like reflective, poetic endings. Like slightly reminded me of that for being a 90s rom com. I was like, that's interesting. So I liked it. What did I give it? Because I usually tend to rank these things right after I watched them. Yeah, I gave it 4.5. I did have a good time watching it. I'll stick with that. Let's see what maybe some other folks said about it. This one's all over the place. Some 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2.5 stars. Let's read this. This is from your friend Baird. Berd. Maybe Beard, but yeah. 2.5 stars. He says, one of my favorite comedies. This movie is incredibly dated, cheesy, out of touch, and a ham-fisted romantic comedy, but I do enjoy it oh so much. The writing is well done. The characters are mostly likable with just the right amount of depth. Dave Foley gives a great performance, as does Christopher Walken and Alicia Silverstone. I maybe have to say Alicia Silverstone doesn't do so hot. She warms up. Like at the beginning of the film, it's just like, oh my god. But she does get better. Brendan Fraser's performance is lacking in some aspects, while in others he knocks it out of the park. Jokes might fall flat if you don't have a decent grasp of history, but in absolutely no way do you need to be any sort of history buff to get the jokes. Worth the watch for all the culture shock and Dave Foley. Man, 2.5 stars for somebody who seems to like this movie. Weird. I can't necessarily disagree with anything he said other than the Alicia Silverstone stuff. Like, it's weird to praise her acting and then ding Brendan Fraser, but whatever. Yeah, so go check that out if you've never seen it. Or go watch it again if it's like oh fuck, I remember that. Then we watched Basket Case 2. I've probably talked about Basket Case on here before. I think we were even going to do a watch along with that one that maybe I haven't posted yet. But this one, the less you know, the better. But you have to be in for the type of movie it is. It is one of those so bad it's good movies. I have forced a lot of my friends to watch Basket Case. And it's definitely like weird, overly sexual, overly violent, but in a really cartoony sort of way. It's billed as a comedy horror film, and it's directed by Frank Henenlotter, who he's inspired by exploitation and sexploitation films, and he really likes stuff like Pink Flamingos. If you haven't heard of that, that's the John Waters, like, that's kind of exploitation, like controversial, like trying to fuck with your perceptions of what's okay. Yeah, just exploitation filmmaking. And yeah, he says he has expressed a preference for being classified as an exploitation filmmaker. He stated in 2010, I never felt that I made horror films. I always felt that I made exploitation films. Exploitation films have an attitude more than anything, an attitude that you don't find with mainstream Hollywood productions. They're a little ruder, a little raunchier. They deal with material people don't usually touch on, whether it's sex or drugs or rock and roll. So, I've actually really enjoyed his movies. Like, there's Basket Case, that came out in 82. This Basket Case 2 came out in 1990. So there's a pretty big gap, but he went from that to Brain Damage. And then in the same year as Basket Case 2, he released Frankenhooker. And man, I Brain Damage and Frankenhooker are amazing. This was a step down a little bit, although it has some really memorable moments. And if you like raunchy, sort of upsetting exploitation stuff, then I think you'll really enjoy his films. I'm not going to read any reviews for that because that's one of those things where it's like, if you get it, you get it. And maybe you get it, but you're like, nah, this is not for me. And that's totally fine. So let's back out. Let's see what else we got left on this list. We tried to watch one movie that I didn't even put on the list, which is called Sex Pot. Sex and then weed, pot. Maybe one of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen in my life. Absolutely just trying to rip off like Superbad and Pineapple Express. And just, what if we rip those films off but then make it incredibly worse and not funny and all that? And that was that movie. So that's all I got to say about that one. The next night we watched the Hulu remake of Hellraiser. Well, he's gonna be all woke like they made Pinhead the woman. None of that stands out to me. People that give a shit about that stuff are fucking idiots. Is the story good? Flat out, no, the story's not good. That being said, I was highly entertained watching this because visually it's a gorgeous film. There's a lot of really cool shots, cool effects. I loved the costume, makeup, all that for the Cenobites. I did miss To Be Fat Pig Boy from the first one. I really don't. I know they all have names or whatever. Like the Chatterer is like the guy that with his teeth, Pinhead. But I heard somebody call him Butterball from the old original. He's the guy that has like the big circle eyes and the tube, and he's like Tubby Tubby Pig Boy or whatever. Yeah, I missed him. The story is not good. The main actress is incredibly unlikable. But that being said, I think she was supposed to be, because it seems like they're playing with doesn't seem like they're obviously playing with themes of drug addiction in this one rather than more of a sexual thing like the first one. And yeah, she's just an incredibly annoying, selfish addict. And so she does a good job portraying that, but it makes her really hard to like enjoy watching. Yeah, decently acted. Main lady does a good job as being incredibly unlikable. Visuals are awesome. I think I said that you could turn the sound off on this and it would make a pretty sweet Tool video. And that's about it. As far as it being woke or whatever, like, no. And people that like criticize this for that are like, it's just stupid. Moving on to something that is definitely not woke and pretty bad is Flesh and Blood, but it's spelled flesh + blood. This is Paul Verhoeven, and if you know him, he's the guy that did RoboCop, Total Recall, I want to say Super Troopers, Starship Troopers, Basic Instinct, Showgirls. He's a wild filmmaker, and that run that I just said, not in the right order, is like one of the best runs of film by just about any director I can think of. Like, those are awesome movies and got very unique style and personality. And he's a Dutch filmmaker, so a lot of his earlier works are Dutch films. But Flesh and Blood is his first foray into like working within the American system, I think. Or at least his actors are speaking English and all this stuff. I was excited because it has Rutger Hauer and I'm trying to think of it without having to look it up, but I might have to. Oh, I'm gonna have to because it's not coming to me. It might before I get there. Jennifer Jason Leigh. Sorry. Um, I love Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's a great actress, and Rutger Hauer is one of those guys that's a great actor, and he always plays roles where I hate him, but it's because he's doing a good job. And this is like really weird because it kind of meanders at the beginning. Like, what is this all about? What are they even setting up exactly? And it's like, I think somebody pointed out that it's like the Wild Bunch, but it's like if the Wild Bunch were a bunch of medieval rapists. And that's the weirdest thing about this movie is it's very graphic with like sex and murder and all that. But it's like playing this toodly doo 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 toodly doo doo doo. Like, just, we're running through the countryside and raping and pillaging, having a good time. We're a wild bunch. And it's just very odd. And it's like uncomfortable. And then somebody shows up that has the plague. And they're like, oh, okay. So then all these people that did wrong catch the plague and start to distrust each other. And you're like, okay, it's a story like that. And it almost works again. Because of that, you're like, all right, these marauders and rapists and like hardcore like Christians that do all this terrible stuff in the name of God, like they're getting their comeuppance. And then it just like falls apart into this love triangle thing where Jennifer Jason Leigh can't decide if she likes the bad boy rape guy that raped her or this nerd that she was betrothed to that's like Da Vinci wannabe. So yeah, do you want to be with the bad boy or the nerd? And that's like, it feels like that's all they're trying to do with that. Like they're not really getting deeper about it than that. And yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh's crazy, makes terrible decisions throughout the entire thing. But that's a Paul Verhoeven movie. Did I like the movie? No, I didn't like it at all. And so what we were going to do watching his films is if we like this one, then the next time we watch his films, we're going to watch RoboCop and move forward. But then after RoboCop, go to the one before this one and kind of watch his films that way. Having watched Flesh and Blood and listened to another podcast recently that does a deep dive on directors' histories, let me see if I can find that. I think it's a little too buried. Maybe not. I could pull it up. But Cinema Shock. So shout out to that podcast. They have like a 4-part deep dive on Paul Verhoeven. So I recommend that if you want to learn more. But in my opinion, and with the Discord homies, we're like, we didn't really like this. So there's no real need to go back and be even more confused by what he's doing because it's not even in English. And, that's not a criticism of foreign film. I love foreign film, but if it's already like, what? With the English film version debut of this guy, then it's like, I don't know if we need to see any of his other stuff. Unless somebody recommends it highly. So many other movies to watch. So we're just going to go from RoboCop and go forward. Even though the whole thing that kickstarted this was watching Total Recall again. So probably do RoboCop and then on to Basic Instinct or something like that. Which I haven't seen that one since I was a young lad. If you understand what I'm saying there. Alright. That was all the movies. And with that, I think we covered all interesting little articles. Happy Lunar New Year, the year of the rabbit. May it be a good year for you. And with that, I think we're just going to wrap it up. So, thanks for listening. If you have any feedback, corrections, whatever, Write me at thejacobwayneshow@gmail.com. And you have a lovely day. Ta-ta! I almost forgot to do the intro for the music section with our boy, Kelin Gibbons. So, with no further ado... Well, well, well. If it isn't Kelin Gibbons, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, it's been a minute.
It's
I'm
been a
doing
hot
good.
minute. What you been up to?
Uh, oh, playing the tunes, traveling, doing the musicals, all kinds of stuff.
Hell yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah, we miss you around here, but we're rolling it in a new fashion, new way, a little easier for me to do on a weekly basis. So
That's
figure
good.
I'll get you when I can get you, and music's a good zone to get you. But before we get into any stuff like that, happy year of the rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sales are through the roof.
Yeah. I have orange lighting in my room right now to celebrate the Cincinnati Bengals winning their playoff game today. But it just looks
Nice.
red.
Nope.
So, whatever. It's Taiwan's flag.
You got some
Orange lighting
chili.
that looks red. I got a red shirt on. We're all doing
Damn.
good.
Did you make some chili? Some celebratory Cincinnati chili?
Yeah, no, fuck that chili. And fuck everything about Cincinnati, but I'm glad the Cincinnati Bengals won.
Fuck all their food, though.
Yeah, fuck all that. Did you know that Harambe was shot in Cincinnati?
Now that you say that, I think I did. Like that does Cincinnati Zoo does bounce in the mind near that same thing.
So apparently people in Cincinnati go pretty hardcore about Harambe.
Huh.
And so how I found out that the Cincinnati Bengals won today is I pulled up a meme and it's just like Cincinnati beats the Bills twice in the playoffs or something like that, like some stat. I could be getting it wrong. But just in like spirit faded mode behind the stadium is Harambe. And I was just like, what the hell is that about? And then I was like looking at it and apparently that's the reason why. Because it happened there and
They
Cincinnati
hold on.
folks feel guilty, but they
Yeah.
honor him.
Damn. Well,
If
that's
I
good.
got that wrong, feel free to write all your hate mail to the jacobwayneshow@gmail.com.
Hell yeah.
Bring it, Cincinnati. No, but yeah, Bengals, they're going. 49ers just beat the Cowboys, which is good, even though I don't like the 49ers. So hopefully it's
Yeah.
Cincinnati and the 49ers in the Super Bowl rather than, say, the Eagles and Chiefs.
Yep.
But all of my least favorite teams got knocked out. But what is this? This is music section. I'm not talking football.
Hashtag just not the Cowboys. I saw that today. So
Yeah,
that's the last thing we'll say.
there's another meme that was like a Dolphins fan, a Patriots fan, and a so and so fan walk into a bar and all cheer for the Bills to win. To so the Cowboys are. I don't know.
Nice.
Just like Jesus Christ. All right, but anyway, music stuff. You got anything to plug, promote?
The Highland Drifters are still plugging away on our second album. So
Nice.
I'll tease that. That's about all I can do at this point is tease though. But it's done. Like I think we're done playing instruments for it. Now comes the fun part.
Hmm. I misunderstood that for like half a second. I was like, we've stopped playing instruments. I'm like, you're like a fucking acapella group now, or like,
Oh, that could be fun.
eh? Nah, but that's good. I'm glad there's progress on that front. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned it on the show yet, so I'll just do it right here. Gamma has a new drummer, Josiah.
Oh yeah.
So he recently recorded a little bit of drums for us, and we're seeing if it'll work to like just lay on top of Luck Tiger and then just re-release it with some human drumming.
Oh nice.
But beyond that, then start looking into what it'll take to do an album, record somewhere, and blah blah blah. But it's looking good as far as Gamma stuff goes. Our next show is in February at the Coast in Fort Collins, February 16th. So,
Nice.
with that, is there any new music releases on your radar that are not already on the Jacob Wayne Show Facebook page?
Um, I don't think so. No, I think you got all the
Okay.
ones.
All right. If you don't have any new stuff to plug or talk about, then we'll hop right into that.
Okay, let's do it.
So, first things first. I'd heard this song before, but I, like, not too long ago, though, for the first time. It's like a year or two ago. And I was reminded of it because she did another song that I'm surprised I didn't share, but I just remembered that Ode to Billy Joe was really good. And we're talking
Uh-huh.
about Bobby Gentry. Why don't you fill me in a little bit on her because you probably know a little more than I do.
I actually don't really know much about her as an artist. I haven't done the deep dive on her. I just know some of her hits, like mainly this one. This is like the song I know the most about, and it wasn't even lyrically. We covered this in a jazz band, so I just had a lead sheet to it. So
Okay.
I was just listening to it. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, this is the melody we did. So I remember the organ player played the melody just really tastefully on the organ. He's the one that wrote up the chart. It
Yeah.
was a good time. Good tune to play. Yeah, it worked really good. All the little things she does at the end of the phrases
Yeah.
sound really cool. All played instrumentally.
Oh yeah. Um, if you want to pull this song up and give it a little listen, the audio won't spill over into this, so you'll be able to hear this song. Would that be too distracting?
No, which one is it?
All right. So look up "Fancy" by Bobby Gentry. It's on her 1970 album "Fancy." And "Ode to Billy Joe" is also the name of that album, and that came out in 1967. So she's
Uh-huh.
like definitely seems like she's part of this folk singer songwritery thing that was going on in the late 60s. And I don't know if you started that song yet, but you can go ahead if you'd like.
Yeah, it's good. That kind of bluesy, folky. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, she's a retired American singer songwriter who was one of the first female artists in America to compose and produce her own material. Gentry
Oh.
rose to international fame in 1967 with her Southern Gothic narrative Ode to Billy Joe. The track spent 4 weeks
Yeah.
at number one on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and was third in the Billboard year end chart of 1967, earning Gentry Grammy Awards for Best New Artist and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance in 1968.
Nice.
She ended up charting 11 other singles. Her album Fancy brought her a Grammy nomination for Best Female Pop Vocal. After her first album, she had a successful run of variety shows on the Vegas Strip. And in the late 1970s, Gentry lost interest in performing and subsequently retired from the music industry. She is still alive today.
Wow. I just got done playing. Interesting.
Yeah, so that song, Fancy, that's what stood out to me. I was watching, I believe it's episode 4 or 5, I think it's 5, of 6 Feet Under. I've been showing Neil and Dan that show.
Oh yeah.
And there's like opening where a porn star's in the bathroom and talking about a hot date that she has, and she's taking a bath, and she's listening to that song, and she's all kind of talking to her cat, and then the cat knocks over the air dryer into the bathtub and it kills her.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Nice.
every episode starts with a death at the beginning,
Oh,
but I
nice.
was like, oh, this song is tasty as fuck. Who is this? And then as soon as I pulled it up, I was like, holy shit, it's her again. And I did the same
Yeah.
thing with Ode to Billy Joe. It was a song in some show. I was like, that's really good. And so I kind of keep coming back to her. So
Yeah.
what do you think it is about her?
I don't know. I think it's that bluesy. She kind of does like the way she kind of fits the words in is more like closer to almost like rapping. kind of, maybe, and just kind of bluesy. And
She's definitely spinning a
uh,
yarn, telling a
yeah, that
story.
Ode to Billy Joel is definitely that nice narrative thing too. Yeah, she's got a good voice and just like tasteful phrasing and kind of different. She has a different voice too. I know where the other place I've heard her. She did a record with Glenn Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
So
Who's Glenn Campbell
so
again?
he's just like a on the height of TV country. He was really popular.
Okay. He
He
beat
actually is the
out
guy.
Conway Twitty, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
and he was on. He's probably on. Maybe not Hee Haw or whatever that show is, but
Hmm.
he had his own show, I think, and he was the one that played a John Hartford song. That like John Hartford got to basically retire after.
Okay.
So
Well, there you go. I think the one thing I noticed on Fancy, even more so than Ode to Billy Joe, is like there's always these creative little things that all the instruments are doing. They're like nice little touches, nothing crazy, but like in Fancy, there's like, isn't there like the drummer just doing weird little rim shots in between lines? There's just like odd stuff on the drums.
yeah,
And it's just like, those little like, I don't know, it injects personality into the songs.
uh-huh.
It's just really good. It's rather than just some straightforward strummy thing. Like there's a lot going on with that.
Indeed.
Unless you had anything else you wanted to say about Bobby Gentry.
Nope. Tasty. Tasty
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
We will close out with the NPR article, I think.
Right.
Scroll up. You've heard the big boy Big Awoo.
No.
You can go ahead
Yeah.
and press play on that. I can't press play because of a copyrighted song. But for
Hell yeah.
those listening, it's just this big ass dog over some Slayer.
That's badass.
Yeah, good stuff.
Big Awoo.
Big. So yeah, search Big Boy Big Awoo. You will enjoy. I'm gonna
Indeed.
plug in some of your Cash gigs.
Yep.
Jazz at the Cash. That's every other 2
Every
weeks.
Wednesday. Yep. Every other week. Yep.
Cool. Moving right along. Wonder if I could play this one. Alright, I'll just play a little tiny clip, but somebody just chopping vegetables with vinyl. That's nice.
Yep. That's fun.
Alright, have you seen Pump the Jam?
Is that the Steve-O?
I guess it's the Steve-O, yeah. No, yeah, it is.
No, I have not yet. This is fun.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's an old classic 90s song, Pump the Jam.
Technotronics.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Oh, we can listen to this guy. Let's 3, 2, 1 it. They'll be able to hear it too, but we'll be in sync with each other. You ready? The drummer.
One sec. Yes, ready.
All right, we'll go 3, 2, 1, play.
Guy's got the feeling.
I love his posture.
Yeah.
The way he...
Looks so painful.
He reminds me of that line in Half Baked. Like, my doctor says I need a backiotomy. The way he's like leaning into that snare. So can you break down anything about what he's doing that's making it so fucking awesome?
Well, he's good and he's super into it. That's what makes it like fun to watch. Is how much fun he's break it down for the baby. No, he's just laying it down. He's really simple. You notice he's
Yeah.
not like playing like every beat. He's let a lot of space. Just tasty.
She's got a
I
really
would
good
totally
groove.
play with that dude. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That would just be fun. Is that an actual move where he like slides the snare at the stick across the snare like?
Yeah, I have heard that. I didn't know that was how they did that, but I have heard that noise before.
Okay,
They'd be
that's
doing all kinds of stuff.
yeah. Great drummer.
Indeed.
On to sadder news: David Crosby passed away.
Rip in peace.
Yep.
I like
I'll
right after Jeff Beck. What the hell?
yeah.
I don't know if we talked about him on the last one, but goddamn.
I did a little bit. Mentioned that he was. I feel like he was a really underrated guitar player. Um, but even so, I didn't necessarily deep dive into his catalog. There was one solo album of his that I really loved that I mentioned. That was
Yeah.
oh man, I already forgetting the name of it. So it'll come back to me if I remember it. But yeah, we talked about Jeff Beck a little bit. And I'll admit, David Crosby, I know it's Crosby, Stills, and Nash, but they're not a band I really listen to that much. And I don't
Yeah,
know
that's
a lot
most
about
I
them.
know. Yep. I just I know Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Colbert better than I know Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Right.
uh, no, I mean the Southern Cross is a jam, but I listen to the Jimmy Buffett version more than the original. So
Wasn't
I
he in
think he's
another pretty well known band? The
the
Birds.
Birds.
Right.
Yeah, with Jeff Beck, right? No, am I thinking of something else?
Taking a look see.
No, I think I'm thinking of something else. He was in the Jeff Beck's was in a different Birds, I think.
Another
But yeah,
bird thing. Yeah, it's not really my wheelhouse as far
Yardbirds.
as Yardbirds. It's not really in my wheelhouse of what I listen to.
Yeah,
So, rest in peace. I know the name, which whenever you recognize a name and it's from a genre you don't even really listen to that much, then that definitely counts for something.
indeed.
So, if you're listening and you love his work, tell me what album to listen to, and I'll listen to it
Tribute.
and try to digest more of what he contributed.
Right
But
on.
with that, I'm going to move on to the Dwarfs of East Agoza.
Uh, Not the preferred nomenclature.
If you want to go ahead and pull that up and give it a little listen.
I listened. I gave this one a listen earlier. I did get a chance to listen to some of these albums, and this is one I clicked through. I listened to the first couple of tracks,
Yeah,
and then kind of started skipping, and I was like, all right, I think I got the idea for the first couple of tracks.
yeah, it's a very on in the background kind of album.
One of those albums where I wonder what the difference is between a good time playing it and you can't. I wonder how they know when they play it right. One of those kind of things.
They come across to me, considering that the album art is like a very basic cave drawing of like dwarfs with giant dicks.
Yeah,
Um, it seems very like basic and raw, and they probably don't think about it too much, and then they just like
yeah.
keep something on a loop and
That's
really
what I was
go.
getting the feel of. Yeah,
But I really liked
it's
their
fun.
blend of like background keyboardiness with just really basic drumming and like almost shitty guitar distortion.
Yeah,
It just gives it a really
interesting
weird
guitar tone.
vibe.
Indeed.
Apparently, I read one comment where apparently there's a myth about these little dwarfs somewhere in Africa where there's these little dwarfs with giant dicks that live in like the lake or something.
Huh.
And then somebody was like, I heard about this shit and I've been meaning to talk about it, but it's such a weird fucking thing to bring up that I just never did. And then this band's referencing it, and so, oh my god. I don't
Uh,
know how accurate that is, but it is intriguing. And anyway, I would say roast a bowl and like clean your house to this album. It's very good for
Word
that
up.
kind of thing. Just yeah, totally like while you're doing a task, especially something like cleaning or cooking or something, just throw this on.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
But we'll keep rolling. There is which legendary music festival would you want to travel back in time to? Woodstock, California Jam, Live Aid, or the Denny's Grand Slam?
We all remember the Denny's Grand Slam.
What the fuck? What the fuck is up, Denny's?
Let's wake this shit up.
Yeah. I'll admit I would have liked to see Woodstock, I think.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Denny's Grand Slam, though, might be a close second.
I know this is blasphemy as a guitar player,
Sure.
but I kind of think I would have I'd like want to see Queen more than I'd want to see Jimmy. But
Wow.
there you go, roast me.
Okay.
Right, Jacob at the Jacob.
Okay, well, maybe we should wrap up.
I
No, but what is the California Jam?
have no idea. I can't even tell who that is.
I'm like trying to look. It's like that's either Elton John or like Return to Forever or something like that. I can't tell.
Huh.
Those are just total guesses.
Yeah.
Some memey stuff. So we'll get into the last three album things and discuss the NPR thing real quick. And we'll kind of speed through this a little. Che Amy Dorval.
We can't speed through this one.
No. She just released an album called The Crown. And she, if you don't know, we've talked about her before. She's the singer and part of the duo Casualties of Cool with Devin Townsend, which is an amazing album.
Yeah, she's also on his latest one, Lightwork.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I haven't really digested that
much
one.
of a collaborator, but yeah.
But yeah, she's kind of released some songs here and there, in like little EPs, but this is like a full-on album. And I listened to it while I was painting today. And before I give my thoughts on it, what did you think of it?
I liked it, especially I thought I think it kind of did a hump in the middle for me.
Yeah.
Like I thought, like the first song I was like, okay. Second song got better, and then like the third song I was like, hell yeah. Fourth and fifth, sixth song, and then it started kind of going down, and then it popped back up at the end.
Yeah.
So she has so much range vocally. I like a lot of what she does. My favorites are when she's singing like down lower, like where Devin had her a lot of the time.
Yeah.
That's my preferred sound of her voice. When she does like the newer stuff,
Yeah.
the newer sound, you know what I mean? That new pop sound, I don't like it as much, like the first song. And then the last song where she does a little I don't really care for that much.
Oh, I like that.
I liked, and I'm sure it'll probably grow on me because I liked the groove of the album is killer. I thought the songs were awesome, like the tracking and the instrumentation and the groove.
Yeah.
So, I could go off on this. I went and looked up who produced it. Have you looked that up?
I have not.
So his name's Bob Rock.
Oh, probably Metallica producer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Best known for Saint Anger.
Well,
unfortunately,
I would say he's best known for Black Album and.
Oh, yeah, but nobody talks about the producing on it.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody talks about the production on Saint Anger. And he also was on Tal Bachman, who did the She's So High.
Okay. I like that song a lot.
Yeah. No. David Lee Roth, all kinds of people. He's a big producer.
We have to land on this. I can't blame Bob Rock for Saint Anger. I blame Lars.
Oh yeah, no, I'm totally...
Because I think I remember footage from that. It's like, no, this is the way that the new rock is going to sound. It's like trash. It's like getting hit in trash, man. And when they were working on Saint Anger, you could just see Bob Rock just like, oh my god. These fucking guys. Like, okay, well, yeah, all right. Just
all right, Lars,
make an album.
No, he's got a hell of a list of too. Like as I look through it, I still see new albums. Like, oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh,
I thought the production was like outstanding on this album. I really liked what he did. Cool stuff.
well, I need to listen to it on better speakers. I got my tiny little dinky ones right here.
Hmm.
So that's what I use when I'm doing whatever painting. So I feel like the
Well,
album translated through pretty shitty speakers, and
yeah.
but I definitely
I
need to take it in more as far as production goes.
I have to be careful now with these nice speakers. I was listening to this one album and I thought it was just so cool. And I listened to it in my car and I was like, it's all right.
Like, okay. But yeah, as far as this album goes, it's like I think it's pretty mixed bag. Like none of it hit the same like mood of what hit me so strongly with Casualties of Cool. And I definitely give her most of the credit on what I love about Casualties of Cool so much. Like I love Devin, but like she's the thing that made me fall in love with that album. And she's
Yeah, I
had
think,
like earlier songs from this album of her solo stuff, and I really like those too, and the mood of that. And so yeah, maybe she's trying out some poppier stuff and different things on this. She
yeah,
does great, but yeah, she kind of goes into these areas where I'm like, oh well, now you're starting to sound just like everybody else a little bit,
yep.
and that's not, it's not great. But overall, I think the integrity and the uniqueness was maintained throughout the whole thing. It's just she's kind of leaning into some more of that more straightforward, generic pop stuff.
Yeah,
That's like, okay, fine. But I hope,
she does it well.
yeah. More of the moody, dark singer songwritery stuff. She's like really good at that.
Yeah,
And that's not, once again, that's a genre I'm not that into. So if I think if I feel that way about her doing it, then people just need to learn more about her because there's people that love singer songwriter stuff way more than me, and I think they'd
they
just
should
be
be into
blown
it.
away by her. But
I think I can't imagine like how somebody could like Casualties of Cool. That album's just so good.
right,
And
yeah,
I think my favorite song on here might, if it's not one of the funky, that Want That Soul. I thought that one was really tasty, and Blood Red Sun was cool too. But I think it
yeah,
was Try was the one maybe that
yeah,
like sound. It could have been a B side to Casualties of Cool. So,
yeah. I think so. That sounded like the Hallelujah By and By song.
uh-huh,
It reminded me of it anyway. Maybe it didn't sound like it, but
yeah,
anyway. Any
good
other
stuff.
notes on that?
Nope.
Just she needs to be bigger than she is.
Yep.
And I thought I came across something, but I think they are working on the second Casualties of Cool.
Yeah, I think that is the thing.
Cool. Mac DeMarco, 5 Easy Hot Dogs. Did you listen to that one?
I didn't get to that one.
I
Uh,
forget, how much are you aware of Mac DeMarco?
a little bit. I got a buddy that like went and saw him like a year or so ago and told me all about it. He's
Yeah.
like one of his favorites. You've
He,
showed me some,
hmm
I believe.
He's a very charming, lovable goof that has like a really good barometer for like production and mixing, like in that fuzzy vintage DIY sort of way.
Uh-huh.
And like he'll get cheesy little keyboard noises, but the way he plays guitar and mixes it all with like that soft 70s drumming style like John Lennon albums.
Yeah.
Like it's just very soft and palatable and funny and kind of like yeah, tongue in cheek sort of like oh, damn, that's oh, kind of hits and gets you slightly emotional. Like I wouldn't say
Oh
that's its
damn.
goal, but it's like you'll just catch yourself like, oh damn, that was a really good line, or just like really sweetly orchestrated melody or whatever.
Well damn.
But at the end of the day, it is like this like DIY. It's almost it reminds me of the fuzzy screen from like a VHS tape. It's very much
Yeah.
like that throwback old schoolness about it. But this one is just an instrumental. And from
Oh
what I
yeah.
understand, the last album he did was Here Comes the Cowboy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as good as the album before, in my opinion.
This old dog.
Yeah. And he was good friends with Mac Miller, the rapper that passed away. I
Uh huh.
think he helped him a lot on his like drum production and stuff. And I feel like the last I read, he was going through just kind of like what the fuck does it all mean, existential issues with writing and all that. And
Oh.
so I don't know. I wonder if he's still in that state. He's just like, there's a bunch of instrumentals, but I didn't feel like singing on anything. I need to listen to some interviews or something and see how he feels about it. But that's kind of how this comes off,
Yeah, that's interesting.
which is kind of I'm kind of for it. I wish artists were a little more like that sometimes. Like I'll do an album with me singing on it again at some point, but this is all I was feeling was this instrumental thing.
Yeah.
And just put that out. Cuz I'd rather have that than like still waiting nothing, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, if you don't know who Mac DeMarco is, listen to This Old Dog. That's what got me into him. I think he has one called Salad Days that a lot of people love that I
Yeah,
still have
that's the
never really
big one.
sat with.
Yeah, that's the top track is from that album on my streaming service. So
Okay. Well, yeah. We will move along then. Did you listen to Victim's Family?
I did not, but I'm intrigued
So I
by the
learned
cover.
about these guys from a post of an Instagram account. Let me see if I can find it. Um, like Primus Tracks or something. They're like a podcast that covers a lot of Primus history. And they did an interview with one of the guys from this band, Victim's Family, because I guess they toured with Primus back in the day or something like that. Yes,
Ah,
this is Primus Tracks, one word on Instagram. And they're a podcast, so go check them out. I haven't even listened to them yet. I just follow them. So many podcasts these days, you know what I mean?
well, way too many.
And got to spend an enchanting evening with the great Tim Soya as Victim's Family and Nasal Rod tore it up in Eugene, Oregon, I guess. Sounds like he's the drummer. But either way, I was like, toured with Primus? Primus fans shouting him out? I
But
wonder what that's like.
and also, it looks like they opened up for Mr. Bungle a couple of years back.
Yeah, which makes sense because they're very much. They kind of remind me of like. Have you ever heard of? Oh man, I have to think of it, but it's the bassist that plays for Metallica now. Oh, Infectious Groove. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this band is kind of like a mix between Primus, Infectious Groove, and then yeah, like kind of some punk rock stuff, like maybe Suicidal Tendencies, which Infectious Groove had the singer from that.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So yeah, it does seem like that. It's like a little bit of the weirdness of Primus, and yeah, maybe some Mr. Bungle in there, but it's a lot more punk and punky. But really great tonality and bass playing. Um,
Oh
very
yeah.
punky, tongue-in-cheek lyrics that I find generally charming. Um, but it's kind of like always fun when you find a heavy band that isn't just this generic, boring thing that you've come to expect. And it's even better when it's like from an era you love, and you're like, "Holy shit, I'd never heard of this band," and it like kind of overwhelms you. You know, you're like, "Holy shit, how did I miss this? How did I never hear
Right?
about this?"
Yeah.
Oh, it's
There's
just
so much.
there's some System of a Downiness to it, like just like
Yeah.
the changes from part to part, like genre jumping almost, and yeah, I don't know. I'm like, man, they must have. In my head, I'm like, they must have been so frustrated because this album that I posted is from 2001. They were around since like '92 at least,
Yeah,
so they were just going through the '90s, just watching all these other bands like Korn and whatever come up, and they're like, we're so much more heavy and like wild than them. What the fuck?
yeah,
But that's probably why they never made it. They never like totally did that poppy thing to like push them
yeah.
over. So unfortunately, a lot of sounds like a lot of people missed them. But I'm certainly glad
I
that
do.
Primus Tracks even mentioned them because I never would have looked it up.
Yeah,
So shout out to Primus Tracks and Victim's family. It sounds like they're still touring, so maybe see them live at some point. That'd be nice. I need to learn more about their history though.
yeah.
With that, let's get to this NPR article and call it good.
Let's do it.
So, I saw this headline, and I don't know if I mentioned it at the top of this discussion, but I don't look at the articles anymore beforehand. I just jump right in. And if it starts to sound like bullshit or it's just not interesting, just pull the cord, jump out. Who gives a shit? So, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to look at this article.
Yeah, I actually saw it the day it came out, like somewhere it got posted.
And what's your initial
So
reaction to the headline? What makes that song swing? At last, physicists unravel a jazz mystery.
I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Exactly. Because I was
I was like,
like, it's not really that mysterious. Like, maybe I'd have a hard time articulating exactly what swing is, but like, it
yeah,
just sounds like one of those annoying headlines. And I knew you'd enjoy it, so
yep.
this was the main thing that I was like, oh, gotta see if he can make it this week. So I'm gonna read this, and you feel free to stop me wherever you like. For nearly a century, jazz musicians and scholars have debated the answer to a musical mystery. As legendary jazz trumpeter Louis Armstrong once put it, what is this thing called swing?
I don't think
Swing.
so. Gonna stop you right
All
there. I don't
right.
think there's that much debate. I think people know exactly what it is. Okay, continue.
Swing has long been considered an essential component of almost all types of jazz, from traditional to bebop to post bop. As Ella Fitzgerald and many others have sung, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. You might
Bop,
describe
doo, bop, doo,
swing
bop.
as a rhythmic phenomenon in jazz performances, a propulsive, groovy feeling that makes you want to move with the music. Anything?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Still, a precise definition of swing has long eluded musicians and scholars alike, as the big band era jazz trumpeter Cootie Williams, ooh, quite the name, once reportedly joked about swing. Describe it, I'd rather tackle Einstein's theory. Fittingly, physicists
Well,
now
he already
think
described it. That is easy.
Fittingly, physicists now think they've got an answer to the secret of swing, and it all has to do with subtle nuances in the timing of soloists.
I don't see, and that's what it is, and we already knew that, and that was the whole thing. Here's what I learned in college, going for jazz, that basically what happens with swing is like what people write on the top of the music is that every eighth note becomes a triplet with the second triplet tied to the first. So instead of triplet, triplet, it's triplet, 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 triplet. And that's like a basic swing. Now, a hard swing is you put it later. You put it like almost like a 16th note, like a one, a two, a three, a four, like really, really close. Or you could do closer to just one and two and just normal eighth notes. And it all depends on how fast it's going. Like that's really what it is. Another drummer I'm friends with describes it like if you're conducting in a circle. So everybody, as long as everybody hits at the bottom or the top of the circle, however you want to feel about it, every beat, it doesn't really matter where the other beat is, but good jazz musicians will all lock into that. They'll find where whoever establishes it, whether it's the drummer or the soloist, is putting that, and they'll lock into that. But overall, the main 1, 2, 3, 4 never changes.
So conceivably, you could have a beat that I'm thinking about this in terms of the swing knob in Fruity Loops or something.
Yeah,
Where you put down a beat and you can put the swing on to like 50%, and the beat will just stay the same for the most part,
yeah.
unless it depends on like where a certain hit is. But
If it's in the
like,
eighth notes or the
yeah.
16th notes, yeah,
But then yeah, once you lay down like some melody line on it, and the swing's like an automation on everything, then it's like, oh holy shit, there it is.
yeah.
So yeah, is this article bullshit? Should we keep rolling with it or just call it good?
Well, I have read the article, and what it
Okay.
gets into is what we're talking about. So basically, what they did was they put a recording of a jazz standard, and they took the melody and they delayed it by like milliseconds.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked a bunch of jazz musicians, it's like a whole, what, 7.5 times more likely to rate the version with the delayed downbeat as more swinging. So
Mm-hmm.
that's all they did was like increase the swing, and jazz musicians were like, yeah, that swings more. So I don't think they even really accomplished what they said they did. Like, we already knew that. But
Yeah. So
it does
this.
have some good guys to go listen to, and it has some stuff from Christian McBride, who's totally an awesome dude. And I think I've seen a clip of this actual like thing when he was demonstrating this like swing in one of his talks he did, and
Yeah.
that's a much better way. If you want to get a good idea, you should go find that video on YouTube. Christian McBride describes swing.
Okay. Have you ever listened to this Nicholas Payton trio?
I have not, but I'm interested.
All right. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff in the article, but it does come across as like one of those. Like, there's science and everything, of course, right?
Uh
But
huh.
it's like sometimes when it's like science finally, blah, 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 it's like nah, like everybody already knew what this was. You just wanted to like describe it that way, which makes it seem a lot more intriguing, but also a lot more pretentious.
Yeah.
Because if I was had to sit here and describe jazz to you, it'd be like that's a swing. That's how I describe swing.
There you go.
But yeah, I don't know. Any other little bits before we call it good?
Well, I can't. I don't think so. I do think, like it says, Louis Armstrong is the other guy to go listen to.
Okay.
And the biggest thing I think it really comes down to is like how far can the soloist, how far away from the beat can everybody get and still know where the beat is, if that makes sense. Like, if you listen to Louis, like they're all just like, there's three instruments and the bass and drums are just always just plowing along, keeping that downbeat going. And the way that everybody else kind of dances over the top of it, it's like they can ebb and flow with the time, but you can tell that they know exactly where that beat is. They're never like going against it. It's
All right.
always like
Well,
it's always propelling it forward.
we got this jazzy little breakdown on a new song we're working on, and our new drummer Josiah goes into it, that kind of thing,
Nice.
and you know, I'll go like doom boom doom 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 boom 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 doom 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 boom 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 boom, and then you stop for a second, and then it's like do 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 do, or you just do whatever. So each time I
Yeah.
jump into it, I'm just like the way I think of it in my head is I'm just trying to like hiccup further away from where I was the last time. So it's like it's like, and it's just like, yeah, it's like you got the hiccups. But yeah, like you're
Yeah.
saying, you know exactly where that one is where everybody needs to hit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
Exactly. That's swinging.
well, with that, yeah, I think we'll call it good. So thanks for coming back on, buddy, and hopefully we can get you as often as we need you.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, feel free to send me any music stuff throughout the week, and then I can either discuss it solo, or if you can make it, we can both discuss it.
That sounds good.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Y'all's well later.
Ta-ta! Thank you for listening to The Jacob Wayne Show. If you would like to contact us, please write us at fakkoshka@gmail.com. That is FAKOSHKA@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Simply search The Jacob Wayne Show and it should pop right up. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Please write us. It helps add content to the show and makes the show even better for you, the listener. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the